Corporations can legally go to the public to raise money, and there are two ways that they can do that. They can sell stock or they can sell bonds. Most people are somewhat familiar with the stock market, but a lot of people don't know too much about bonds. So let's compare the two. When a company sells stock, they're going to the public and taking in new owners. So they sell stock certificates to the public in exchange for cash. The cash that they receive increases the asset side of the balance sheet, and the stock certificates that they've given out in evidence of their new owners' claims will increase the owner's equity side of the balance sheet. When a company sells bonds, this is really a form of debt financing. The company is borrowing money from the bondholders, and instead of giving out stock certificates, they give out bond certificates as evidence of the debt that they owe back to the bondholders who are loaning the company money. So the company receives cash, the asset side of the balance sheet goes up, bonds payable, a long-term liability, is credited, increasing the liability side of the balance sheet. So when a company sells stock, that is considered equity financing. When a company sells bonds, that's a form of debt financing. Now, why would a company go to the public to borrow money rather than just going to a bank and borrowing money? Well, consider if a company wanted to borrow a lot of money, maybe millions and millions and millions of dollars. They may not be able to go to one bank, one lending institution to borrow all that much money. So by going to the public and raising a little bit of money from a lot of people, it's a way of spreading the risk among a lot of people. Down below here you see two different sections here highlighting some of the important differences between stocks and bonds. When a company does sell stock on the stock market, all the cash they receive never has to be repaid. But if a stockholder decides later that they don't want to be a stockholder, what they do is they contact their broker and sell the stock to someone else. Once the company has that money, though, from the initial sale of stock, they never have to repay it. However, remember that there's no free form of financing, and so with most companies, eventually the stockholders are going to be expecting dividends to be paid out, and most companies that have been around a long time feel that they really need to maintain a constant, regular dividend stream in order to keep their stockholders happy. With bonds, remember that it's a form of debt, and therefore it will have to be repaid. And throughout the life of the bonds, interest will also be paid to those bondholders. Now, one thing that makes bonds different than notes payable, we said earlier in this chapter that with notes, with simple interest notes, all of the principal and all of the interest is repaid in one big lump sum at maturity. Bonds work a little bit differently. The lump sum that they've borrowed on day one, that's not due until maturity. However, the interest is paid throughout the life of the bonds. Usually, it will be paid twice a year. There are some terms in Objective 4 that you might want to look at. Secured bonds, unsecured, convertible, and callable. See if you can find those terms in Objective 4. They could show up as multiple choice questions on your next test. And also remember that there are some parts of Chapter 10 related to bonds that you're not going to be responsible for. So don't spend a lot of time looking at something that you don't really need to know. All right, now also I wanted to look with you at a practice problem that I have posted at our e-learning site, and there's a second practice problem as well. But this one just shows you the basic journal entries. On January 1, we are selling the bonds and taking in cash. Most bonds have a face value of $1,000 per bond. So if the company is issuing 200 bonds, that would be $200,000 that they would take in. Now again, if the bonds pay interest semi-annually or twice a year, that means twice a year they're going to have to make an interest payment. That's actually cash out the door. And the interest is just calculated as principal times rate times time. The journal entry is a debit to interest expense and a credit to cash. So this interest payment entry will be made every 6 months. And then way down the road at maturity, the bonds could last for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, even longer. And I've got here 20-year bonds. So at the end of the 20th year, the company would need to repay the principal amount that they borrowed. Simply take the bonds payable from your original entry, take that off the books, and pay that face value back to the bondholders.